The press has no trouble attacking the First Lady or the President, of course. They're good at that. But when he fights back, suddenly the First Amendment is in peril. Are Trump's attacks on the press really an attack on our democratic norms? Daily Beast editor-in-chief and CNN political analyst John Avlon seems to think so.
We shouldn't normalize the spectacle because it is a serious, constant attack at our democratic norms, going after the press, going after individual entities.
Joining me now on this newest bout of hyperbole is Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume, his first time on the Ingraham Angle. Hi, Brit. How are you?
Hi, Laura. You got me up past my bedtime.
It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us. So,
thank you.
Is our
pleasure.
First Amendment in peril because Donald Trump sent out that tweet about CNN International and his comments about fake news?
Well, certainly not because of that tweet. And I would say, broadly speaking, that Trump's criticisms of the media, which have been, pretty consistent, pretty frequent, still haven't added up to anything that would threaten our First Amendment freedoms. We in the media in this country enjoy a level of freedom and protection that is rarely available, almost nowhere else on earth. And we're pretty invulnerable to government officials and politicians. There's not much they can do to us. The Supreme Court is there to safeguard our rights and has consistently done so to the point where, for example, if someone wants to sue for libel, they have to prove that the offending party has committed either a reckless or a willful act of falsehood. That's pretty hard to prove. In my own career, Laura, I've been spied on by the CIA. I've been sued for libel. I've been criticized by name. And here I am after all these years. And that's because we're protected in this country. There's just not much Donald Trump can do to the media.
I was sued for libel when I was 19, Brett, at Dartmouth. The professor sued me. I learned a lot about the First Amendment, but ultimately unsuccessful. But you're right. I was thinking about Obama, President Obama, and he had a seemingly very chummy relationship with the mainstream press, oftentimes. But then we had the James Rosen controversy. Cheryl Atkinson, the journalist, said her computer was actually hacked into. His comments about Fox News, other supporters' comments about talk radio, routinely belittling Fox and conservative internet, websites and so forth. So I could make the argument that in maybe a kind of sophisticated way, or not so sophisticated in some way, the Obama administration was much more hostile to an unfriendly, critical press.
I would agree with that, Laura. I think that, what was done in the case of James Rosen was grossly improper. It should not have happened. It was an abuse. And yet, in the end, James Rosen is still working at Fox News and doing better than ever. And Cheryl Atkinson is certainly out there still. We are just in too well protected a position to be knocked off by or thrown off our work by government. Not only that, it's not just that we have these protections, but we in the media also have power. So we're pretty safe.
Well, they don't like to be crushed. They don't like to be crushed. Yeah, sorry, Brett, but a lot of people in the media, especially CNN, MSNBC, they don't want to be criticized. The idea that anyone's going to call their wisdom into question or their prognostication abilities into question, they don't like that. They never liked it. They never wanted to be called out, not by other media outlets, Media Research Center, whether it's a website or it's a talk radio. They don't like that. They don't like that. They want to be the invulnerable, invincible folks. And I'm talking about some of our other friends on other networks. I mean, we don't always get it right, but you're not immune to criticism either. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. I want to talk a little bit about President Trump's comment today at that Code Talkers ceremony and play the soundbite. Let's watch.
You were here long before any of us were here, although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you because you are special.
Now, Brett, I'm not sure why the president had to bring up Elizabeth Warren. I mean, we're not really in the campaign, not in 2020 yet. I mean, maybe she's Maybe it was on his mind because of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issue. I don't know. We're going to handle that later in the show. But well, what about that moment? They're going crazy. The left's going crazy about that.
I agree with you, Laura. I don't think it was a very gracious thing for him to do, and he does a lot of ungracious things. Grace is not his strength. He's ungenerous to people. He's constantly carping about people who are much smaller than he is. I'm not sure what that accomplishes. But I don't think it's a threat, and I don't think it's racist. Your earlier segment brought this to light as well. That term is flung around with abandon today, and it is a tragedy because the great achievement of the civil rights movement, greater even than the important laws that were passed, were the consensus that it brought about that racism is wrong and not to be tolerated. And an overwhelming, prohibitive majority of Americans feel that way. And for that term to be flung around with abandon is an abuse. And there's been much too much of it. And I think that for Elizabeth Warren to call it a racist slur is unfair. It's wrong. She's a big girl. What he said is essentially harmless, if crude. My view of that is just move on.
All right, Brett. I really appreciate it. I mean, it is kind of funny, but it's probably not necessary. And I've seen President Trump be incredibly gracious toward people. He is very gracious, and he can turn on the charm when he wants to. But there, he had to hit the dig into. Well, at least he didn't call her Pocahontas, Britt. Look at it that way. It could have been even more perhaps ungracious. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.